Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of On the Clock with Personal Living Alert. I'm David, I'm with Personal Living Alert, and today we're going to be speaking with Margo Arrowsmith. Margo is a licensed clinical social worker and also an author. She wrote, "You Can Keep Your Parents Home," and we may talk a little bit about that. We'll get into it. But right now, I just want to welcome Margo. Welcome, and how are you today?
I'm just fine, David. Glad to see you're looking good.
No, so flattered to get you everywhere. So, Margo, I always like to start these things. We get into a little bit about who you are, what's your background, why'd you get into the senior market? What can you tell us?
Well, I've been a psychotherapist for, over 35 years now. Before I got into that, I was a young kid working with a senior citizens recreation program and started to like that very much. Throughout my career, though, I've literally worked from the womb to the grave, so I've done all ages. But when my parents retired, and then as they started to have problems, I moved them into a house on my property and helped Dad take care of Mom. He did most of it. And then I had 5 years with my dad until he was 93 and died in my house. And I realized that we did some really good stuff, and I will never regret what we did, but we made a lot of mistakes. And what I want to do now is to really help people live in the community, keep their parents in the community, but also not make the mistakes I made.
That's really awesome, and I commend you for that. But, I've done, I don't know, 20, 30 of these so far, and it's interesting to me that I would tell you 80 to 90% of the people that I talk to didn't start out wanting to work for seniors. They fell into it because of a loved one or something like that that got them in. And it's really more out of love than anything else that they got into working with seniors. I think that's commendable.
Yeah, it is. Although interesting enough, I had a graduate intern who was 27 years old, and his life's dream was working with seniors. So while you're mostly right, every once in a while we do find somebody who had their heart on it.
That's what I said, about 80% of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think the effects of isolation is on the general population across the United States? And then we'll break that down as we go on.
Well, I think one of the things that's happening with the general population is it's bringing out more of who we are. People are kind of having to face more who they are. People who don't want to do that are having a harder time because they're kind of stuck with themselves and they don't want to deal with that. So they're having a harder time. People who are using this time to explore things they might like to do, to go into therapy, and a lot of people are starting therapy now, and learn who they are, they're actually having a little bit of a better time. You have to kind of learn to go with the flow. If you're not that kind of person, you're having a hard time. If you are that kind of person, it's easier. And in some cases, beneficial.
So what about if we segment that down a little bit and talk about our friends in the senior community? The typical 55 and over, that's me now, or the 65 and over, just out there living their lives. Now they got stuck in isolation. What do you think's going on with them?
Well, first place I have to say I have a little bit of a skewed view because the people that I'm seeing are people who are in therapy. And they came to me to begin with because they wanted to change themselves. One of my very favorite clients is she's now 79, I've been seeing her for a year, woman who came to me long after most people have said, it's all over, I'm done, I just have to settle with what I've got, and said, I've had this issue my whole life, I want to change it. She's having a bit of a hard time because of the isolation. She's getting frustrated. It's hard. For instance, she wanted to work with Parents Anonymous because of a problem she had when she was a young mother. And it's hard to do now because they're not meeting, but she's researching, she's doing things. The people who get out there are the ones that are going to make it. I will also say, well, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to go into even a smaller segment of the senior community. So before we do that, go ahead, finish up.
Well, I was just going to say that there are also people, however, who they're enjoying it because they just like having the leisure time. And like, for instance, and someone has said this to me before, that they were worried that their parents were doing nothing but watching Netflix. Now that can be a problem. If they're doing it because they're lethargic, because they don't have anything else to do, because they're depressed and bored, it can be a problem. If they're doing it because finally they have time to watch all these movies they've never seen before and they're enjoying it, then it's not a problem. You really have to take that person by person. Not automatically assume that it's a bad thing, but also not automatically assume that, oh, good, they're entertained, we don't have to worry about them. It's person by person.
And at the end of the day, you got to ask them why they're doing things.
Exactly. Very well said. Yes. Thank you.
What about the folks that we deal with a little bit on a regular basis, the ones that are in assisted living, independent living, memory care facilities? How do you think they're coping with isolation? I mean, they're in lockdown, and depending on where they are in the United States, some of them haven't been out of their rooms in 10 weeks. And as you and I both know, they go to these assisted livings because of the socialization. They can have lunch with their friends or meet new friends, play canasta, bingo, whatever, go to the movies and enjoy all of that life has to offer. And now, boom, they're in a room, they're in a box.
Exactly. I have a client, they actually went to Ohio to pick up his father-in-law because he was in one of those. He was doing fine, but in some, it varies from place to place, but in some of them, literally 3 days a week, the door opens, an arm goes in and puts a plate of food on the table. And they finally just went to get him because it was just terrible for him. I really don't know. I used to do a lot of work in these homes. I used to do therapy with people there. I stopped doing that about 6 months ago, fortunately, apparently, but I don't know. I don't know how they're doing it. I wish I could help you, but probably the best thing is be sure you call them a lot. You know, don't just assume that, well, I can call them whenever I feel. The best thing to do if you have somebody there, and unlike my client, you can't take them out, then at least say, I will call you at 5 o'clock every day, so that that's a little bit of a schedule where they're going to have a human contact. And don't just let them sit there and wait. Well, maybe he's going to call. Keep looking at their watch. That is not healthy. Have them put it on their calendar. Have it be a regular part of their day. That's, at these days, that's about all you can do. But you know what? That's actually doing a lot.
It is. You know, I think from a personal perspective, the first 2 weeks, you know, of this, everybody's just hanging out in their pajamas, not doing a lot. And then you need to bring a little bit of structure in to your life so you can then focus on what needs to get done. It's no longer a vacation.
Exactly.
You still got to do things if you're able to. And even just putting that 5 o'clock phone call down, that kind of gets it a little bit of structure and kind of gets them moving in the right direction. Maybe that's what I'm just guessing at.
No, you're exactly right. And frankly, it gives you a little bit of structure too, because these days we all need a little extra structure. So on the one hand, we don't want to like just schedule busy work, crazy stuff. But on the other hand, all of us need to have more structure. And for our family that's like in an assisted living, they need to know when you're going to call, and they need to have something to look forward to, so that then when they're watching Netflix, they can at least say, and pretty soon I'm going to have this personal phone call.
Right. You know, it's a beautiful segment, because one of the things I always wanted to ask you about is what tips can we do during isolation to keep us sane? It sounds like structure is one, but I'm sure there's others.
You know, it varies. Here's the deal. Part of it, you kind of have to accept what's going on, because if you're constantly fighting it, it's going to make it worse. But then you also have to say, that does not mean that I have to, you know, live in my pajamas. Make a list of like, what books have you not had time to read? For the people who are watching a lot of Netflix, don't just, you know, randomly turn on the TV and sit there in front of, you know, Diagnosis Murder all day long, but say, what have I been wanting to see that I haven't seen? So you even kind of want to structure your entertainment. Let's not waste this time. Let's make it valuable to see the really good stuff that I haven't been able to do. What did I want to learn how to paint? I mean, you can order paint stuff from Amazon. You can get a YouTube video where you are learning how to paint. If you're not going to do it now when we have all this extra time, when are you going to do it? And again, don't just say, I'm going to do it. Say, on Monday morning between 9 and 10, I'm going to watch videos about how to paint. And from 10 to 11, I'm going to paint. Or whatever it is you're going to do.
Yeah, you're right. It can go with whether you're learning a new language, whether you're just doing some spring cleaning. It has afforded us, if you chose to go down that path, it has afforded us the opportunity to do, like you said, to take advantage of it and turn it into a positive versus a negative being isolated.
But if you don't schedule it, the next thing you know, it was Monday morning and you were going to do it, and now it's Wednesday night and you haven't done it. So that's what's important. You don't want to structure yourself so that you feel like you're in a cage, but you do need some structure.
Yeah. So we're down here in Florida. You're in South Carolina, North Carolina, I forget.
North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina.
You're in North Carolina. They're just opening up things down here. I don't know how open, what phase you guys are in. But what can you recommend for people that are just starting to leave their house, who've been inside for 10, 11, 12 weeks, and maybe a little apprehensive about going outside and thinking like stuff like that?
One of the things I'm going to recommend is that you do your homework. Someone was telling me last week that they had gone out to one of their favorite restaurants, but they found themselves sitting at a table on the sidewalk, and people kept walking back and forth on the sidewalk, people who weren't wearing masks, people who didn't seem oblivious to what was going on, and they didn't enjoy their dinner. So what I'm going to recommend, again, is that you, whether it's your favorite restaurant or one you just want to try, that you call them up, you ask them, do you have a designated outdoor space that's away from the sidewalk? And if they say yes, great. Then you say, and what is your, you don't want to, give them the third degree, but what are your procedures? Do your service people wear masks, etc. If they say no, you're on the sidewalk, say, well, how close do people get? And if they say, oh, it's just, then that's probably a place you don't want to go to. Do your homework before you go out, and then you're less likely to have unpleasant surprises.
And I think that's great advice. I think it's regional though. And the reason I say that is because down here in Broward County, you have strict rules.
Is that Miami?
Well, just north of Miami, yeah.
Okay.
All right. We have strict rules. You have to wear your face mask. But I've got two boys who live up in Jacksonville.
Nothing.
They don't need anything. And on the west coast of Florida, they don't need anything.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like by you, but it's anxiety, I guess, can be regional.
Well, that's true, which is another, exactly. So part of the issue though is you kind of have to assess your own level of tolerance of it. If you're somebody who thinks it's fine to sit on the sidewalk, then there's not a problem. If you're somebody who's nervous about going out, that's when you kind of have to do the homework ahead of time. But it's kind of the same here. Like if you go to, Whole Foods, everybody wears masks. If you go to Harris Teeter, some people do, some people don't. So again, you have to measure your level of anxiety about it or your level of how safe you want to be to decide whether or not you're going to go to the Harris Teeter. Some people it's okay. Some people say, you know what, I'm staying away.
Exactly.
But measure your own self and then do your homework.
All right. So let's talk about what you're doing to stay sane, for lack of a better word, over the last 10, 11, 12 weeks. Have you learned a new skill? Have you done any spring cleaning? All these really cool things we're talking about, have we done any of them?
Well, actually, I have. Well, first place, I'm fortunate in that I'm still working. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I spend 2 days a week in the office. That'll stop soon. And then I do telehealth 2 days a week. But I do have some extra time. So what I have done is I've actually started putting together a class for online that's going to teach people how to decide where they want to live when it comes to retirement. So I have actually started doing that, and I have used the extra time, and it does make me feel better. That doesn't mean, but on the days that I don't schedule it, where I don't say I'm going to do this, this, and this, at the end of the day, I haven't done what I thought I was going to get done. So it matters.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, we were able to transition and work out of the home, and you know, that's how I came up with this on the clock with personal
Yeah,
living is because, you know, we're a referral based business,
right.
and you know, just getting the word out, and I thought maybe we just talk to experts and help educate, and in this case, relax people about what the world's going to be. And I'm going to ask you, what do you think the future is going to be like? I mean, and when are you going to be comfortable in shedding all this extra garb that we have to have now?
That's hard to say. I think what we have to do is just, not watch the news all the time, but we do have to know what's going on. Again, we have to assess our own level of ability to tolerate things, combined with what we're being told. We can't just say, I'm not afraid of anything, I'm going out there. But we're just like it's different from region to region, it's going to be different from person to person. I'm 72 years old, so I'm in one of those groups where I have to be a little more careful. And I'm also an introvert, so I don't mind not going out as much, although I do like going out and I like people. But so it's a little easier for me. Somebody who is younger and an extrovert and has just been climbing the walls, it's going to be different. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get society together to not have a whole bunch of people that are out there doing stuff and a bunch of other people that are locked at home. That's really going to be us really working together for everybody's sake. I don't know what else to say. I'm really, though, looking forward to when I get a new client now. I can't shake their hands, and I got to tell you, that one's killing me because I'm a handshaker.
Well,
So
it's not just
I'm
that.
hoping we can do that again someday.
It's not just that. It's like I go visit my parents and my in-laws, and we socially distance. There's no hugging, there's no kissing, there's no nothing. And it was a very strange Mother's Day. It's gonna be a very strange Father's Day. You know, we somehow we need to figure out a way to make ourselves comfortable and go forward.
Yeah, my daughter's in-laws are from South America, and at Thanksgiving she has like 45, 50 people in her house, and you do not walk into the house without hugging everybody, and you do not leave without hugging everybody. I can't even imagine, and I'm thinking, oh God, I hope next November we're not in this second wave, because I can't even imagine. It'll break my heart. It'll break my heart.
No doubt. So, Margo, if somebody wanted to ask you a question, it doesn't matter where they are, and you could provide a little bit of guidance, how can somebody get in touch with you?
Okay, I have a website, keepyourparentshome.com, which is a little different than the book title. And you can email me there, margo@keepyourparentshome.com. I have a YouTube channel, which is Age Out Loud, and it has some wonderful things in it, including 15 videos about how just because you're old doesn't mean it's dementia, and how sometimes things when you're older get looked at as if they're dementia and they're not. But you can go on there, you can make comments, and you can contact me through there. I have 2 Facebook pages. One is Keep Your Parents Home, and the other is Age Out Loud, and you can contact me through there.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. And I'm always happy to talk to people and let people know that life can be better.
I appreciate it. All right. Talk to you soon, Margo.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.